My name is Shirley Self, and I'm here to talk astrology. Tonight I wanted to talk about the moon, the door to the astral plane. The astral plane right here. And, may I introduce you to the Golden Dawn Kabbalah. I've replaced the names of the Sephiroth here with the names of the planets, the symbols of the planets. So it just makes life easier for me. I am an astrologer after all. So here's where all the goodies lie. Here's where, in the astral plane, is everything humans have ever done or thought or said. And it also is, it's also called the Cauldron of Cauldron. Now the Cauldron of Cauldron holds the future, not just the past, but the future. So that the subconscious mind, this is it, which is accesses the astral. The subconscious mind is the source of all creativity, human creativity, human progress, human invention, human civilization. And it seems to be concocted like human thought will become educated to come to some possibility, some great possibility, and all of a sudden it'll be available right there in the Cauldron of Cauldron. And that's why you have 2 or 3 geniuses accessing all the same information at all about the same time. They're doing it through their moon. They're tramping around in the astral plane. And as Yeats said, if you own a piece of what you're looking for, if you're a scientist, a physicist for instance, and you've got a physics problem, it will talk to you in those terms. So you have to be able to be in a situation where you can understand the information, like being able to see the solution to the problem. So the moon and the sun. Let me talk about the sun for a minute here. Our sun, wherever your sun is, it's not where you're the expert, that is where you're learning. The sun is here to be educated. And what the sun knows is what it has experienced this lifetime. And it is all available through hypnosis or whatever. For instance, you can go into the astral plane and discover things that you had forgotten. I went into the astral one time under help. I was doing Gestalt and re-experienced my birth trauma. And I realized what an impact it had made on my attitude toward the world. But that was available in the astral plane. Everything is available in the astral plane. All human experience is contained there. So the sun is here to be educated. The moon is what does that education. The sun is a happy camper as long as you just leave him alone. He's satisfied with whatever he's accomplished. And it is the moon that says, get out there and do something. Go do this. The moon is the conscious of the sun. The sun is a lazy and happy and just wants to roll around heaven all day. It's the moon that puts the sun to work. And that's why so many left brain types, logical types, hate the emotions, because it's the emotions that nag the logical mind into getting off its high horse and going out and doing something. So the moon is our door into total knowledge, whatever you want to know. When you're born, you drop here into the kingdom and into life, into physical reality. The border of your experience here is judgment and the moon. Now, judgment contains what the culture brings you. The surrounding beliefs, etc., are it's a confining thing. It is definitely a confining thing, and that's a lot what your 12th house is all about. Is the curse of the 12th house is that that's where the mistakes of your culture will attack you and bring you down, and your own mistakes, your own denial of reality, of your own reality. That's the curse of the 12th house. But the 12th house is ruled by Neptune, and it is, therefore, it is available through the moon. You can go into the astral plane through the door of the moon, and you can explore not only your own past lives, but you can explore the cultural past and understand the cultural limitations by doing what Carl Jung called a use of the creative imagination. This is the imagination. This is the logical mind. It's the left brain. The imagination is the right brain. Now, you've got to take your left brain in there. You know, you have to be. It helps to be awake if you're deliberately seeking out something. Asleep, the gods will speak to you through the moon and tell you whatever you need to know. Often it's a message that simply brings you into balance, back into balance. It can be wonderful and tell you the future. When I was working on the Yeats book, I started that work in 2001. But the dreams about the Yeats work came to me in the 1980s and into the 1990s. And I kept a dream journal, and I recommend that if you remember your dreams, write them down. Once you start paying attention to them, they start to speak to you, and you will learn your own symbols. There are common symbols. The common symbols, you know, that are used by your culture, your religion, your belief system. They're there, but you also have your own symbols, the things that are important to you, the things you have, colors that speak to you, shapes, forms, people. My dreams had characters. And these characters would last, some of them would last for years. They were parts of my psyche. And the dreams would tell me what that part was doing at the time. Very helpful. Excuse me while I have a sip of water. So the dreams come to you. But if you want to deliberately go into the astral, there's certain things you have to take care of. First of all, it helps to know the language. Symbols are the language of the subconscious. Symbols are the language of dreams. The astral plane will come to you, symbols. And everything in your dreams and everything in the astral plane has meaning. Everything. Color, shape, whatever. And the moon is what gives, what understands the meaning. Your emotional reaction to what you see in the subconscious, it tells you about, it gives you clues about what the symbol means. Now, mythology, you know, is made totally of symbols. And if you're going to do, say, past life regressions in the astral plane, what you're going to have to do is realize that little story that you will get, sometimes it's just a picture. I had a lot of those. But they'll come to you in a little story. Now, understand that mythology's got a bad reputation in this overly scientific, I put that in quotes, overly scientific culture that we live in now. Mythology's got a bad rap. But understand that mythology is not history. Mythology is psychology. So, the logical mind, as it starts to pay attention to, for instance, the dreams or the images that it gets when it goes into the astral plane, pay attention to those and learn your own particular language. The symbols have nuance that are specific to you. So the sun has got to pay attention. And that's one of the difficulties of going into the astral plane, is the logical mind has got to shut up and quit its criticism and its sneering and its saying, "Oh, that's so stupid," and pay attention. It takes both of these. Notice that the cradle here of the Cauldron of Cauldron, that cauldron that holds the future of humanity, that cradle is bordered by Mercury and Venus. And so it behooves, when you're going into the astral plane, through the moon gate, it behooves you to have an idea of what you want to find there, and a patience and a need. We've got to be receptive to it. You've got to be not criticizing it, but accepting. Sometimes the pictures you get there are exceedingly goofy, but they're information. So, and you have to use the Mars here. You have to keep breathing. You have to keep breathing. If you stop breathing when you're doing astral work, it stops. Everything stops. It freezes up. So, and you got to realize that the astral plane is a dangerous place. Your own fears, your own neediness, your own subconscious, those mistakes that you make in beliefs are all, as they say, the astral seeks to deceive. It seeks to deceive. It isn't just deceptive. It's an attitude it seems to have. It will flow into. You could consider that that when you go into the astral plane, you need your protection around you. You need your armor, so that any fear, any mistaken beliefs, any what am I looking for? Neediness. You consider that holes in your armor, holes in your protection. So what I do when I go into the astral, when I do creative visualization, which is what Jung named it, when I do creative visualization, I put myself in a sacred space first. Now understand that, and I did this little video on how to do sacred space maybe a year ago. So it's available in my videos somewhere. And I recommend that you do some kind of sacred space, that you just call in your own protection, that you just feel the pink light solid around you, that you, one thing that I have done is just put on my armor. I do that sometimes when I feel like I'm going to war, is I close my eyes and I put on my armor. And you need that kind of protection in the astral. And it helps you also to focus your energy. And if you've done any meditation, you understand how deeply important the breath is to continuing to stay where you want to stay, which is in meditation, which is shut up, and in exploring the astral plane. It's good for the logical mind to be absolutely receptive to use that Venus. Breath, and the breath has to keep it going. So the astral is dangerous. It seeks to not only deceive, but there are consciousnesses that are available there that can worm their way into your the openings in your defenses, the where your defenses are falling down, into your neediness, into your fears. There are consciousnesses that can come and live with you. It's called possession, and I do believe it is real. So I do think you need to do a certain amount of protection when you explore the astral. So helps to know what you want, helps to keep breathing. Now, some of the I wanted to share some of the techniques that I have learned and that I use to access the astral. One of the things, and for me, I have Jupiter in Aries, so I can kind of jump right in. To me, 10 deep breaths is going to put me in a situation in which I can access the astral. Understand that I always do the ritual first. I do that protection ritual is actually a banishing ritual. We are protected. It is our own weaknesses. It is those things that we are that we do to ourselves that trash our protection. So what I do is I do the protection, and I sit and I breathe. I make myself comfortable. I warn you, if you lay down, your chances are good you'll go to sleep. So I take my 10 deep breaths. You might need more. My Jupiter is in Aries. It's kind of instantaneous. And over time, I have built a temple. Actually, the temple came quite soon when it was my deliberate intention to build a temple. The thing that has changed is that my temple has gotten closer and closer and closer to me. Years ago, I would have to actually hack through a woods, go down a cliff, and cross a stream to get to my temple. I still cross the stream to get to my temple. Somehow crossing the stream is a magical operation that leaves the past behind. And it seems to work. So in your visualization, while you're breathing deeply, cross the stream and walk to your temple. Now, my temple is in Aries, so it's a solitary place. It's in the woods because that's a place where I feel more secure than any place else in the woods, any place else in the world. So pay attention to where your Jupiter is, because the Jupiter will tell you where you're going to find it. You know, Jupiter in Pisces might have your temple next to the ocean or water. Jupiter in Aquarius, your temple might be on a high mountain. Anyway, what I've done is I cross the stream. I have a bridge. I don't have to wade the stream anymore. I cross the stream and I walk through a gentle woods into an opening in a temenos, an opening in the woods. I know some people who that's enough. That's their temple, is that circular opening in the woods, a temenos. Well, my temple is in a temenos, and it has 5 steps up to it. It built itself. It truly did. It's a dome, fairly clear, fairly simple, and I walk into it. It has a jade door. I don't know why it has a jade door, but I love the jade door. It's green, and it makes me feel rich. Jade is a stone of wealth, and I think what it does is it makes you feel rich. I have jade. It's never made me wealthy, but it does make me feel wealthy. Anyway, my temple has a jade door, and I go into that temple, and in the center is either a seat or a bed, depending on what I need. If it's a bed, I will lay down, because and then I am ministered to by my healer in the temple. I can go into my temple, and the healer will come in through one of the doors that I always visualize around me in my temple. All these doors, the doors of possibility and probability and reality. And so if I'm not needing repaired, I will sit in the middle of my temple and I have a question. And I will turn until I see the door that is the opening to my question. And the door is always very informative. Sometimes the door is so high I can hardly reach it, and I'll have to concoct a ladder to get up into it. Sometimes the door is short, and I have to crawl through and get into it. So the condition of the door is interesting. Any accoutrements or label or anything on the door is information. So then I'm breathing. Pay attention, you have to breathe or it won't work. It stops. So you go in the door, and in that door is the answer to your question. Hold your question in mind, in your heart, and go into the door, and whatever is in there is your answer. And it will be probably a picture, maybe a movie, maybe it'll be you doing something, interacting with something, going somewhere. But that's the way I find answers to my questions in the temple. One of the things I use it for, or used to use it for, I don't do past life regressions so much anymore, but past life regressions are very available right out of that temple. And I'll tell you how I learned how to do past life regressions. My brother taught me this. Thank you, Donald. Yeah, no, not Donald Trump. He is Donald Trump. And he and I were the best of friends and the worst of enemies. And we were very helpful to each other. So, a past life regression. I have a particular door in my temple that opens to the past life regression. And it opens into the railway station. And I go into that railway station, and I'm going to take the train into my past. Past life regressions are neat. They tend always, I found that they always speak to what the problem is now. And sometimes you're surprised to learn that the problem that the gods think is, or whatever, that you're going to get the answer to is not the problem you thought was your real problem. And so I would go with that. So anyway, past lives, the ones you find are usually explanatory of some issue in your life. So anyway, I go into the train station, and I don't have to buy a ticket. I just go get on the train. I mean, you can if you're really Capricornian buy a ticket, but I just get on the train. And sometimes it's interesting to see what the train looks like, because sometimes it's an old coal-fired, and sometimes it's a bullet train like out of Japan. So anyway, pay attention to everything. Everything is information. So you get on the train, find your seat. It's always interesting to me which side I sit on, and if there's anybody else there. And never been anybody else there, so I guess it's just my train. And I breathe deeply, and the train takes off. Now I'm visualizing this. The train takes off, and it's a chugga, 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 and pretty soon that train is going like a Japanese bullet train. It's going so fast that I cannot see out the window. Remember to breathe and keep that train going. And the train will go as long as it needs to go, and then it will slow down and stop. Keep breathing. And the doors will open, and you will step off into something. Keep breathing. And pay attention to what it is, where it is, when it is. Who are you? What are you wearing? Who's around you? Are there people? What's the landscape like? Walk into it. Explore. And remember to come home. Get back on that train when you're done. Keep breathing, and get on the train, and it'll bring you right home, back into the train station, and you walk right back into your temple and sit down and remember what you've done and write it down. I don't do a lot of past life regressions because they tend to speak to problems. And for years and years and years, I went to war in my past lives. And it was always awful. Awful. I was awful. I was awful. It wasn't awful to me. I was awful to the world. And I have the South Node in Aries. I have Jupiter and Mars and Saturn in Aries, and that South Node is conjunct Saturn. And so, of course, awful is what I get. I have actually taken people to past lives in which it was truly wonderful, including a couple of times in which I took people into past lives in which they were not in this world. So don't negate anything. Accept it and take it home. Sit in your temple and own it and live with it. Write it down. Write down as much as you can remember. And as more of it comes to you, like a color or something, write that down. This is information, and this is also going to teach you your own symbols, your own particular nuance to whatever symbols come to you. So, and the temple, I tend to go to sleep there after I've come back from whatever I've done, and I allow myself to go to sleep there. It's a very comforting way to go to sleep because I don't sleep well. And if I can be in my temple and calm down and breathing, I'll get better sleep than otherwise. So I think that's about all I wanted to talk to you about tonight. Creative visualization is not difficult. If you can meditate, if you can concentrate, and if you can remember to keep breathing, sometimes a little device holds something that reminds you to keep breathing, like hold a crystal or something. I used to have a clock, and that would ka-chik, 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 and it would say breathe, breathe, breathe to me. So sometimes that will help you to keep breathing. That's the real issue in exploring the astral plane. That and go be protected. Go safely forth and conquer. And I'll be talking to you soon. Bye-bye.